Yo, 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 welcome to Crate 808, and today we're sitting with a rap luminary with a lot to say. Usually his smile stays locked away, the offbeat, onbeat MC that throw it like Santana and illustrates like Dan Hanna. With a mind state the maddest, he's gone with the wind. It's the best flow in the biz, you know what it is. He slams and he slams and he slams. Did I mention that he slams? Ladies and gentlemen, the son of Yvonne, Masta Ace, is in the house right now. How are you doing, man?
Yo, you got to get some type of award for the best intro ever.
Oh man, that means a lot coming from you.
Nah, that was dope, man. That was dope.
For a living legend, and I don't say that lightly, man. For a living legend jumping on the pod, man. Yeah, we're honoured to have you on, and man, let's chat some hip hop, man. I want to dig deep.
Okay.
Before we do, man, Masta Ace, what's the least hip hop thing you've done in the last 24 hours?
The last 24 hours, the least hip hop thing.
Mm-hmm.
I probably cooked.
Okay. Yeah. What did you cook?
That's not very hip hop. I made so my wife made these black eyed peas, and so I just made my sides, and I actually posted the other day me making my recipe for a red cabbage slaw. So it's a vegan dish. I make it with vegan mayonnaise, and it's a really nice sweet side for your main dish.
Man, I'm into that. Like, I love it. Pink. I'd try that as pink slaw that we get here. Man.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Right, I'm going to go back into that and check that recipe out, man. And talk about recipes. We're all in lockdown. Coronavirus is here. Pandemic's kicked in. I know I've been cooking a lot more since I've been home. How are you dealing with it, man? How are you dealing with the whole lockdown?
I'm good, man. I've just been home with my wife and my daughter. We stay close to the crib. We don't really go out unless it's for groceries or something. Like every 2 weeks, I go to the post office to mail out like merch because people buy stuff from my website. So I don't go every time an order comes in. I'll like hold the orders until I get 3 or 4. It's about every 2 weeks, and then I go out and I'll do one run to the post office. Just trying to be smart and be careful about our movements, and that's pretty much it, man.
Are you staying creative? Are you managing to still write and stuff like that?
Yeah, I have been. Actually, I've been writing quite a bit. I'm working on a hip hop musical that I've been writing for about the last 2 years.
Okay.
So I've had a lot more time to kind of work on that. I've already reached the point where we had our first unofficial table read, where we've had some actors come in and just read the script through, so we could kind of hear what it sounded like and get a feel for it. And that was a very interesting process, but a very good day for me because I'd never had my work read by some professionals. So that was kind of cool to just have that done. And I'm also working a lot with. There's a lot of people who've been reaching out for features, trying to get verses. More than I expected, to be honest with you. I just thought during this time, because the financial situation is not the greatest for people, I figured things wouldn't be, coming through as much. But to my surprise, there's been quite a few offers for verses from people, and so yeah, I've been staying creative, man.
Damn, I love to hear that, man. I love to hear that. This musical sounds amazing. Could you get a few more details? Are we looking like 2021 or?
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be this year. We've lost a year for sure.
For sure, yeah.
I'm still in the process of writing the songs. Like, I have the script, although the script needs tweaking. Obviously, I have to shrink it because I tend to overwrite and have my characters saying way more than they need to say and repeating stuff. So I've been working my way through those things, but at the same time, I'm trying to write the songs. And I have probably 7 or 8 of the songs, but as another, I think the total was like, I want to say it's 14 songs in the musical, something like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Getting those songs written is a different process than if I was just writing an album. Because when I'm writing an album, lyrically I can go wherever I want to go. There's no guardrails up. But with a musical, when you're trying to tell a story, every song has to serve a purpose and help push the action along. And the thing that on my albums, the songs never have to connect to the story that's being told on the skits, but in this case, the songs have to move the action along. And so certain conversations with characters that I just had as conversations, my dramaturg is like, that needs to be a song. That conversation needs to be a song. So now I have to
Yeah.
take dialogue and convert it. It's challenging, but it's been a fun process. I'm learning as I go, man. I really am.
Yeah. I mean, this is interesting because, I mean, you're one of the kings of concept tracks in my eyes. Like, every time I listen to a Masta Ace track and it's got a concept on it, man, that's just one of your key skills. One of the best strings to your bow is like concepts. So this seems like a natural extension.
Well, it's loosely based on the storylines of three of my albums: Disposable Arts, A Long Hot Summer, and The Fallen Season.
No way.
Bits and pieces of those stories and some of the actual characters from those storylines are in this musical.
Oh, sweet. So you're going to bring back a few characters and stuff.
Yeah, Fats is in there for sure.
Fats, I was going to say, is Fats in there? Man, oh, that's brilliant, man.
Yeah.
That sounds wicked. Because we had, sorry to divert from like the usual chat, but we had Prince Paul on and talking to him about Prince Among Thieves.
Hmm.
It was interesting how it's actually a huge task to do what you're doing. As in, writing a song is hard at the best of times. And then to, obviously, if you're making an album, it feels like you may have a theme that you stick to or whatever. This is a different beast, I feel. It's almost like you have to be a film director. Are you finding it quite collaborative, or are you pretty much in your own space? And what's that creative space like? Like, how are you writing? Are you anxiously like praying over every word, or do you kind of like let it sit and go back to it and let it go and then go back to it, kind of thing, if you know what I mean?
No, I take my time, man. I don't put pressure on myself to have to come up with something in the moment. So what I like to do, I'll put the beat on or the music, whatever piece of music I'm working on at that moment. I'll just put it on, let it play, and if nothing's coming to me, or if the lines I'm coming up with aren't strong, then I'll just turn the beat off and go do something else. But I find that because of this quarantine that we're under, I find myself sitting down, putting on the beat, and trying to write. And I've been able to accomplish some, but I find that I write my best stuff when I'm doing something else while the beat is playing in the background. So if I'm washing dishes, or if I'm cooking or something, where I can just put the beat on in the speaker and just let it go on repeat, and I'm staying busy doing stuff with my hands, I come up with the dopest lines where I gotta wash my hands and write this down before I forget it. But that's actually been the case since the Disposable Arts album, because the Disposable Arts, most of that album I wrote in the gym while I was in the gym. I would go to the gym. I had just joined the gym, and I would go to the gym with my, at the time, CD Walkman, if you remember
I
those.
do remember those, yeah.
And I would put the beat on in the CD Walkman, and I would basically just let the beat play. And I wrote most of the songs on that album. I wrote that way.
Damn. There's a lot of energy on that album though. So I don't know if that's a direct result, but there's a lot of impetus. There's a lot of like what's the word? It's not a laid back album, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I find that might, yeah, that's really interesting, man. That's the first time I've heard of anyone who does that kind of thing. But that's wicked, mate. That's really good. I mean, if we're starting from the top though, just tell me, man, like, why hip hop? Why hip hop? What was it about this that got you as a kid?
That's like asking a kid why skateboard.
Yeah.
Because that's what hip hop was. It was just a fun thing. We At the time we don't know who came up with this, but this is kind of cool. I want to do this. This is in my neighborhood. We're all doing it. We're listening to tapes, and it's exciting. It's fun. I felt like I kind of had a knack for putting words together, and so it was just like a natural progression for me. And it worked out that it was suited for me. But I did try all aspects of hip hop. I started off DJing.
Mm.
That was my first foray into the culture, was DJing. And then when Planet Rock came out, I started electric boogieing. I don't say breaking, because I wasn't on the floor. I wasn't getting my clothes dirty,
Yeah.
so I wasn't trying to be on the floor. But we were definitely battling with our dancing,
Yeah.
in the neighborhood and stuff. And then after that, I discovered kind of MCing and poetry. It was like a natural progression from poetry into MCing. And I eventually did try graffiti too, but that was after I started rapping.
So that's interesting, man. What if you could paint a picture for me of that, like, time growing up, like your childhood and stuff like that? What were the sounds you were hearing? Like, what? Just if you could just paint a picture for me, like, what was that like?
It was awesome. And the thing about it that people don't really realize is that disco played a huge part in the development of hip hop. Disco doesn't get enough credit. It doesn't get the credit that it deserves for the part that it played in hip hop, because a lot of the early sort of jams that we rap to, were kind of rooted in disco, and the songs that were played in the park, because it really started with the park jams. All those songs in the 70s, mid late 70s, that was all disco that we were playing and listening to.
Mm.
As a kid growing up in my housing projects, Brownsville, Brooklyn, I was probably 14, 13, 14 years old, and the older guys in the summertime, they would bring the music out. They would bring out the big speakers, and that would be like a great day, like to know that the saying was, yo, they're gonna be jamming in the park tonight. That's what we used to call it, jamming in the park, meaning they were gonna be playing music. And so every time they were gonna be playing music, I was super excited. I would go home and wait till I hear the music come on, and then I would run outside, and I would stay out until, at the time, I had to be in by the time the what they call the street lights came on.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was I was pretty young, so
Yeah, yeah.
you know I would stay out there until the very last moment, and then once the street lights came on, I knew I had to be back in the house. But those were some fun times, man.
Yeah, man, definitely. It's interesting when you say that about disco because electro and stuff like that, it's huge, especially at West Coast as well. I mean, the electro scene there was huge from everything I've read and seen and listened to. Do you remember that time? And I think that might have been, I don't know where it was, but there was a radio DJ who burned all those disco records because they were so scared of that kind of new or genre that they thought was killing music. Do you remember that guy? And I remember, I just remember seeing a documentary on it, and he was like, "It's killing rock. Disco is killing rock," and it just reminds me of when
Oh,
hip hop first came out and stuff.
yeah, I remember that whole movement, the disco sucks movement.
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah, they had this whole campaign. They had made shirts and
yeah, yeah.
bumper stickers, and it was all like just dissing disco. I never really understood what the beef was with disco, because I enjoyed it. I danced to it. It
Mm.
was it was it was the music of choice where I was from. But I really don't know what the beef they had with disco. I never knew the answer to that. Why they had so much of a problem with it.
It's an odd one, right? Because I remember seeing a few documentaries on it, and there's actually now, when you look back on it with a like, kind of hindsight, 2020 hindsight, a lot of people saying it's like middle class, like old white men were worried because there was this music that kind of appealed to young women, gays, blacks, Latinos. It was very inclusive compared to a lot of rock concerts.
Right.
And I can't help but think maybe that did play a part. And it just makes me think of hip hop. It just makes me think when hip hop blew up, I mean, over here in England, and we were listening to it here, completely detached, but there's still that stigma carried over here.
Mm, mm.
And I just think, wow, it's weird how disco and that correlates, and especially as there's a lot of disco in rap as well, especially in the early days. When I was talking about like how you grew up, I understand like just reading about you through the years and stuff like that, that you moved around quite a bit when you were a kid.
Not quite a bit. I mean, I moved from Brooklyn to Massachusetts to Boston for 2 years. 2 years.
Hmm.
I did 2 grades in Boston. My mom was trying to get a job. The job didn't work out, so we moved back to Brooklyn.
So, I mean, you talked about your mum, and the famous story now about how you even made a career from rapping was that she put you in for a rapping contest, right?
Well, she didn't put me in.
Okay.
The night of the contest, it was happening in Queens, New York, and I was home from college on Christmas break, and a friend of mine, Scooter Rockwell, my boy, haven't talked to him in a while. He called me up and was like, "Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's Christmas. I don't want to, just go out. Like it didn't feel right. It's a family situation, and I didn't want to go out on a night where we were supposed to be kind of doing the family thing." And it was actually my mother who overheard the conversation between me and Scooter. And after I hung up with him, she was like, "Why don't you just go? We'd already eaten dinner. We were just watching TV." I was feeling obligated to be at home because it was a family night. It was Christmas and all of that. And she's like, "Nah, just go ahead, go out." And so she gave me the green light, and I called them back and was like, "Yo, I'll meet you on the train, and I met him on the train, went out there, and actually wound up winning the contest.
Damn, man, that's amazing. Like that can make you start believing in like a lot of different things, like fate and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty deep, man. I mean, do you remember there being a conversation like when you actually were going to do it for a living? Do you remember at all sitting her down or your family down and being like, by the way, this is what I'm going to do? Was there ever a conversation?
There was no conversation. So that was my sophomore year in college. So I had 2 more years. In those 2 years, after I won the contest, that summer, after I won the contest on Christmas, that summer I met Marley Marl for the first time. I recorded a couple of demos. I guess he must have liked what I recorded, because the first prize was 6 hours of studio time with Marley Marl. So I used up my 6 hours, and he said, keep coming back. So I went back to college, and then every time I had a break, I would go back up to his crib. So the following summer, I went back up to his crib again, recorded some more stuff. And then the first record came out. The Symphony came out in '88. Same year I graduated from college, the Symphony came out.
Damn.
All of a sudden, I'm in a video. People seeing me on TV, and the neighborhood is all a buzz.
Yeah.
Because they like, yo, we saw you in the video. So now, Marley and I are talking about doing this album and working on this album. So I start working on the album at the top of 1989 and working on this album for the whole year of '89. And while that's happening, my mother is like, yo, you just got your degree in college. What are you doing? Like,
yeah,
why aren't you going out for job interviews? Why aren't you doing a resume? Like, what's happening? And I was like, well, I'm working on this music thing a little bit. And she was not feeling it at all. She's like, you need to do something. It was like September of '90, because I want to say my first album came out in the fall, early winter of 1990. Somewhere around September, she would put up these lists on the refrigerator, and it was like lists of things that she wanted me to do before by the time she came home from work. Because as far as she's concerned, I'm 21 years old, around the house doing pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
So she would put these lists up. It would be like wash the dishes, clean the bathroom, get the clothes out the cleaners, go to the supermarket and buy these things. And when she came back from work, a bunch of the stuff on the list I didn't get done because I was at the studio.
Oh.
And at that point she gave me this ultimatum. Well, it wasn't really an ultimatum. It was a directive. And the next morning when I got up, she had already left for work, and there was a note on the refrigerator that said, I want you out by your birthday. My birthday was in December, and this was probably like September. So basically, she's like, you got 4 months to figure it out and get out on your own, since you don't want to do what you need to do.
Damn.
And my album came out like right before my birthday, like maybe that November or something like that. I think Take a Look Around came out around October, November. And I got my first album advance, and I moved out before my birthday and got my own place. And it was like the timing of it. But that nudge was, and I lived on my own. When I moved out my mother's house, I never went back. I've been on my own ever since.
That's incredible, man. That's timing as well. Incredible timing. I mean, that must affect you now as a parent, though, right? Like,
absolutely.
Could you ever see yourself doing that now, yourself as a parent on the other side of it?
No, because I have a daughter. I know it shouldn't be different for girls and boys, but I think if I was a daughter instead of a son, I don't think she would have told me to get out. It would have been a different kind of approach. But she was just trying to get me to grow up and be a man. Because as far as she could see, the music thing was just like a pipe dream. And I was wasting this degree that I had just gotten, that she had spent probably who knows how much money of her own money on, getting me through college. It looked, and I know what it looked like, because I have friends now whose sons are just out of high school, don't want to go to college. They want to focus on their music careers. And I'm looking at it like, because I know most of these guys, it's not going to go anywhere. And they're gonna wind up wasting so much time pursuing and chasing this dream. So when I see it now from that perspective of how my friends' sons are trying to pursue music, now I really get where my mom was coming from when she was like, I want you out by your birthday. I totally get it.
Hey, yo, this is the one and only R.A., the Rugged Man, and I'm rocking with the Crate 808 podcast with my man Cam. Yeah!
Do you remember when you first started? Then do you remember? Well, actually, do you remember your first rap? Do you ever remember writing that?
Nah, I had a song. I did a song in Marley's, one of my first demos, I would say. It wasn't my first rap, obviously, but it was one of my first songs. It was a song called Power Move.
Power Move.
Yeah, and I think Marley played it on the air one time, like on WBLS one time, just to, because he would do that sometimes. He would do like a demo, and if he thought it sounded kind of dope, he would play it. So I think he might have played it like one time. And then I had another song called Howard Park.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little bit more it was a little bit more developed, and it sounded more current. But that song, again, he played it one time and it never saw the light of day. So there's a couple of joints that I did that never came out, but were pretty good songs.
Okay, waiting for the limited editions now to come out so we can hear some of those, right?
I have MP3s of I have an MP3 of Howard Park. I don't know about Power Move though.
Okay. Were you going under Masta Ace then? Like, how did that name come about? Like, well, how did you stick to that?
It's a terrible story. So,
okay.
Because like I said, I DJ'd first, so I was calling myself DJ D. That was my name because my first name was Duval. So I was like, I'm DJ D. And then when I started rhyming, I was like, oh yeah, DJ D ain't gonna work because I'm rhyming now. So I need a rap name. So at the time, we're talking about early 80s, mid 80s. All the rappers, the street dudes, everybody had Ski on their name. Ski.
Yeah.
You know. So I was like, I'm gonna be D Ski. So I pick up the name D Ski. I was writing D Ski on the elevator with a little graph and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, D Ski, ski. A year later, nobody was skiing anymore. All the skis was fading out. It was kind of like, so I was like, I need something else. I was coming home and I saw this graffiti piece on the wall, and in the graffiti piece there was this Ace of Spade that the artist had drawn to go along with his name or whatever. And I was like, Ace of Spade. Oh, that's dope. Ace. I like that. I'm gonna go with Ace. And then everybody at that time went from Ski to Master, so I was like, let me throw Master on the front, and there you go, done deal. That's how it came about.
That's sick, man. Okay, which wasn't that bad a story. It's like, well, fair play. That's actually quite a logical steps that you followed to get there. Fair play, man. I like that. So, well, then you're with the Juice Crew, and you're like, well, you're kind of with legends, right? You're with people who, that I imagine are either gonna push you or crush you. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
When you jump on the Symphony, not only are you just jumping on the Symphony, you're kicking off the Symphony.
Right.
How does that feel? And also, did you feel intimidated at all, or a need to rewrite anything, or anything like that? Once Kane and Cool G Rap and people like that jump on.
So the way it happened was that I wasn't even supposed to be on that song.
Damn.
I was literally just there. I was Craig G's ride to Marley's house, because Marley only had one car, and he had G Rap and Kane in his car, and I think his wife or somebody else was in that car. So Craig had to get there. And so I was like, I'll drive you. What happened was the song was the whole idea started off, it was supposed to be a duet with Kane and G-Rap. One last song for the album, Kane and G-Rap. Marley decided to ask them, would they be cool if Craig jumped on it? Because what happened was MC Shan was supposed to be on the song. Marley was like, yo, we should put Shan on the song. Are y'all cool with that? And they was like, all right, cool. We'll put Shan on the song. So on the day of, Shan decides he's not going to the studio. He doesn't want to do the song. So he leaves. He goes home. So Marley's like, well, I guess Shan's not going to do it. Y'all cool with Craig doing it? And I guess they talked it over. It's like, okay, cool. People know Craig. We'll let him jump on there with us.
Yeah.
So I'm Craig's ride. So I drive Craig to the studio with G-Rap and Kane. And I just wanted to be there. I just wanted to hear these rhymes, because it was my first day meeting Kane. I never met him before that day, but I was already a fan. I already was like totally feeling all his rhymes and his delivery, all that. So it was just like exciting to just be in the room. So what happened was they were writing their rhymes and I was just chilling. I was just literally just chilling. And when it came time to spit the rhyme, they was like, well, Craig, why don't you get in there first? Craig is like, no, let Kane go. Kane go first. Kane is like, nah, let G-Rap go first. So they going all this back and forth about who's going to rhyme first. So Marley just impromptu just looks over at me. Yo, Ace, you got something? Why don't you just warm up the mic? Just these guys acting all scared. Why don't you jump on in and just spit something real quick so they'll loosen them up.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I got a rhyme. I had memorized rhymes that I walked around with. So I was like, I'll spit something off that I got. And he put me in the booth. When he puts me in the booth, Kane and G-Rap leave and go to the store. And I find this out years later. I knew none of this at the time. But on their walk to the store, the reason they had to go to the store because they wanted to discuss why was Marley putting this new dude that they had never heard before on the song.
Oh.
And it was kind of like, yo, did this start off as a me and you, like a duo type thing? Like,
yeah.
Then he tries to force Shan on there. Shan doesn't come. Now he's putting Craig on the joint. Like, what's going on here? Now he's got this new dude on there. They was calling me Glasses.
Oh.
Now now he's got Glasses on the song. So when they come back from the store, my verse is laid, and they hear the verse, and then they kind of nudge each other. Like Kane is like, "Yo, Glasses is kind of dope," and that's how I ended up on the song. Because I don't think at the time Marley was intending on keeping my verse. I think it was more of just warm up the room, get everybody going, and then I think he was gonna like just eliminate me.
Damn.
But maybe my verse sounded good enough that he's like, yo, this is actually a dope first verse. Let's leave it on there. Let's leave it. So I got on the song by mistake.
That is a moment of validation, even if they are calling you Glasses, it's Big Daddy fucking Kane. You know what I mean? Like he just saying like, yeah, he's pretty good. That's an amazing, amazing moment, man. When we look at that posse cut, and obviously everyone puts it in the Hall of Fame posse cuts, I had to ask you, as a man who loves to collaborate and you featured on quite a lot of amazing tracks, which posse cut in the 90s do you wish you could have jumped on though?
I would say Scenario.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Would you have kicked it off?
It don't matter to me. It wouldn't have mattered. I would have just, because I had never really rhymed on no Tribe beats before, and I was like, that would have been just dope to just get on a Tribe joint, and that alone would have been enough for me. Whether I went first, fifth, it didn't matter.
Yeah, man. Oh, man. Yeah, definitely. I can feel that. I can see that. Talk about Tribe though. Before we get back into the Juice Crew, the Crooklyn joint, that was Q-Tip, that was Tribe on the boards and stuff like that. How did that hook up? How did you hook that up with Buckshot and those guys?
So I just got a phone call from Q-Tip one day. I didn't even at the time, I didn't even know how he even got my number, because we weren't like we knew each other. We were cool and stuff, but I didn't have his number and I didn't know he had mine. But he got my number, and he called me, and he's like, yo, would you be down to be on a song for Spike Lee's movie? And I'm like, silly question, obviously. Hell yeah. Like that's not even a thought. I'm 100%. And it was as simple as that. He said, we're gonna meet at Special Ed Studio, Dollar Cab Lab, which is on, I believe, Utica Avenue in Brooklyn. We all met there. Tip was there, Ali was there. They put the beat on, listened to it. I was like, okay, go ahead, y'all write y'all stuff, and then we'll record it another day. And we all went and wrote rhymes with no direction, came back, everybody laid their rhyme. I don't even remember where we recorded that, but everybody laid their rhymes down. And it was kind of like it was like battle rhymes. Like we were just all, as Brooklyn MCs, just trying to spit, just trying to, I'm the nicest, like those kind of rhymes. So Spike Lee hears the song, and he's like, the song is, it's cool, but you guys are just kind of rhyming. And the movie it takes place in the 70s. The rhymes need to fit the movie. So he put together a private screening months before Crooklyn came out. He put together a private screening for us to watch the movie. And he said, okay, now that you've seen the movie, you know what it's about. It's the 70s. Now go back and give me some rhymes that captured that vibe of the 70s. And we went back, and everybody rewrote their rhymes, and that's the song that you have.
Damn. So Spike had like quite a bit of, well, obviously it's his film and stuff like that, but he had some direction in that. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to ask you then, because I know you're influenced by a lot of things outside of hip hop and not just the music. If you're naming your favorite Spike Lee films, don't have to be just one, but like drop them, man. I need to hear Masta Ace's favorite Spike Lee joints.
Oh, without hesitation, is Do the Right Thing is number one by a mile.
Yeah.
I would say second is probably She's Gotta Have It, because that was a classic for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I fell in love with Nola Bud, that character. I was like loving her.
Yeah, man. They remade that, didn't they? Did they remake that? I think they did.
Yeah, I didn't like it though. I didn't like it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't like the remake. Maybe I was just too biased because I love the original so much.
Yeah.
And then Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Come on.
That film for me over here, man, yeah, absolutely changed my whole life on just seeing things a bit differently. It was crazy, but I was like 12 when I saw that, so yeah, it blew my mind, man.
I watched it with my 15-year-old daughter like during the quarantine, we watched it.
Oh, sweet. How did she enjoy it?
I think so. I mean, kids, they don't really like. We didn't have a conversation about it. It was just I just told it it's just important that you know about this man, and so that's why we watched it. And so she'll probably tell me later in life as an adult, like, yeah, I remember when you made me watch that, and it had this kind of effect on me.
It's funny, isn't it? How teenagers are like that. I feel that as well. I just didn't say anything to my parents about what they were doing that was affecting me. And now, as a
Right.
parent, I'm like, tell me, is this working or not? Like sometimes it gets like that a little bit. But yeah, man, that's mad. Before we move on from Crooklyn, though, I can't not have you on and not ask this. Do you know the samples to that track?
No, I do not. I know. Quest was asking about it one time. He asked Q-Tip like on some kind of public forum, but I have no idea what those samples are.
Damn, man. Damn. I had to ask you, man. I had to.
Hey guys, this is Jerobi from A Tribe Called Quest, and you're listening to the Crate 808 podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, crate808.com. Go check it out. Peace.
But when we talk about films, though, going back to the Juice Crew, I know this has been like muted a few times, but we've had the Wu series on TV. We've had the NWA film, which was a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any movement on a dramatization for the Juice Crew at all?
There was movement on it a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it looked like it was going to happen. Marley had, I guess, dealt the rights to this director, and I think he gave him like two years to find funding or something like that. And the deal was supposed to be if he didn't find funding that the rights would revert back or something like that. But what happened was the guy, he didn't get the funding, and they wound up being in a court battle, which I think is pretty much over now. The rights have been returned back to their rightful owners, and now they're looking for a new situation.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see. It's a possibility that it could still happen.
Yeah, man. Because I think a lot of people talk about biopics and they can talk them down a lot. But I think there's something really vital about a biopic because it teaches people, not teaches people, but it kind of makes people more aware who aren't in the culture. So, for instance, I think when Walk the Line came out, every other person I knew was a Johnny Cash expert, like for a month. And I was just thinking, imagine that. Like when NWA came out, everyone was the same with Dre and Easy and Cube. And I just think sometimes, like, do you know what? There needs to be more of that. Like, at least people are aware of Kane, Ace, G-Rap, all you guys. So I think there's a kind of vital role they play in a weird way of kind of adding a resurgence to an era. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think. Did you see the Shantae movie?
I haven't yet. No, I watched.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I watched like the first hour or something. I think I was traveling whilst I was doing it, and I never went back. But I hear very, very good things about it.
No, it's excellent. It's excellent, and I think that if anything, the success of that movie will let Hollywood know that there is a viable audience to see something like that about the Juice Crew, because hers did so well.
Yeah, man. And which actor plays you? Come on, have you got an actor?
I don't. People asked me that before. I was like, I don't know, because it'll have to be somebody. I think it'll have to be somebody young. Like, it can't be, because the actors I would name would be like somebody like Mekhi Phifer or something, and he's like too old to play. He'd have to be playing me as a 20-something-year-old. So I don't know a lot of these guys. I don't know.
Okay. Well, the way they did the Woo, I thought was great. How they cast that. So yeah, man. I'm looking forward to whenever that happens. Talk about Cold Chillin then. Tour of 1991, this infamous tour that people talk about. Could you tell me more about that tour and who was on it and what went on?
This is not the UK tour, right?
No, the US tour.
No.
I was thinking, yeah, the US
okay,
tour.
So yeah, it was a promo tour. First of all, it wasn't a legitimately a. I mean, we were on tour buses and stuff like that, but it was my first time on a tour bus. They were trying to promote the new signings at Cold Chillin because they had signed a bunch of people. They had Kid Capri, they had Jizza, who was known as the Genius at the time. They had Diamond Shell. So it was a few other people that I'm not. Oh, Granddaddy IU. So all of these artists, it was a way to try to let the world know about these artists. And IU's song, he had a song called Something's New that was actually getting some pretty good radio buzz. So they were trying to, push IU in that moment because he had some buzz and basically promote the rest of these artists around that. And so ODB was actually Jizza's hype man for the very first show. We did the first show in New Jersey, Asbury Park, New Jersey, and The very first night of the very first show of that tour, ODB went on stage as just as hype man in New Jersey, and basically dissed the entire crowd and almost caused a riot, like almost caused the whole thing almost got shut down.
Holy shit! And he's the hype man.
Yeah. He went out there before Jizzy even came out and was like talking crazy to the audience, calling them all kind of suckers and all this kind of stuff. And
Damn.
he said like F Jersey, he's just like crazy stuff. And so dudes wanted to jump on stage and, kill him or whatever. So after that first show in Jersey, we were supposed to go out to the rest of the US and move around. And they decided that ODB could not be on the tour because of that night. It was like, your man is too crazy. I think he was like probably just a little drunk or whatever, but they were like, your man can't go on tour. And they left him home.
Oh man, imagine that though, if he just made a name for himself. I mean, he did in the end anyway, so it's fine. But
that's right.
That's crazy, man. So when we talk about like you moving on and doing a solo career, you've talked about your first album, Take a Look Around. I remember, a lot of my history with your work has been quite revisionist. I think the first album that really hit me of yours was Disposable Arts. Again, my access to hip hop was a little bit more like in late 90s, but like anything the Source and Hip Hop Connection and people like that were pushing, that was readily accessible, bang, I'd be on it. And I remember going back in your catalogue and finding SlaughtaHouse, man, and finding this album. And the first time I heard Jack Be Nimble and stuff like Saturday Night Live, Style Wars, that kind of stuff now, just so you know, so I can put it out there, it still makes me walk differently down the street. As in, that comes on and I get a different kind of gait. I'm like walking and thinking, damn, this, and it's for me, the album is kind of timeless because it has that whole reaction to gangster rap, I would say, or West Coast rap. When you were making that album, what was your thinking? Like, what were you thinking? Because you've already done your first album, and now, like, what was your thinking going into it?
I was frustrated by the industry at the time because before that time period, before '93, when we said hardcore hip hop, we were just talking about dudes that was just rhyming over some hard beats. Like the subject matter didn't have to be guns and blunts and drugs and alcohol. It reached a point where labels were only looking to sign artists that had that content in their music. And it wasn't just about West Coast. The West Coast was just one example. It was happening in the East Coast as well. They were signing all these rough and rugged, Timberlands, and dudes is, walking around with, guns and rapping about guns and shooting each other and being super street. And, I understand that's one aspect of hip hop music, but it became the only thing that was that was the only thing moving. Everybody was doing it. And I just got I was just frustrated by that and decided to speak on it on that album.
Right. Okay, that's interesting because you were ferocious, man. It's one of the highlights, I would say, in your catalogue is SlaughtaHouse, and obviously then Sittin on Chrome as well. I think it was about 2 years later or so, or a year and a half later or something like that. When you were making those albums, what was the reaction? Like, what were your fans saying? What were people around you saying? Were they loving it? What was the reaction generally?
When SlaughtaHouse came out, people didn't really get it. For the most part, it didn't really reach. It didn't have a reach outside of the East Coast, the Northeast. At the same time as SlaughtaHouse was out, Dr. Dre had The Chronic out, and the Chronic was like this beautiful sounding, crystal clear, super loud production. It was like the epitome of a perfectly mixed hip hop album, and just the radio appeal that it had. And so SlaughtaHouse was super dark, dusty. It was my first time trying to put together an album by myself without Marley Marl. We kind of didn't know what we were doing, but we kind of did. So we were just kind of like figuring it out as we went along. And so when you look at SlaughtaHouse in the context of The Chronic, it just misses the mark because hip hop had taken a big step with The Chronic into a more crystal clear sounding hip hop, and everybody was playing The Chronic in their cars, New York to LA. all the way across. My messages kind of got lost in the shuffle because my message wasn't accessible to the masses. It was accessible to a certain group of people that got it. And that's what I've kind of always done throughout my career is I've not really tried to make accessible necessarily to the public kind of music. I always preferred it to be for the people that had a brain in their head and could think beyond the regular, typical messages, that they could follow what I was doing. And I think, and that's probably one of my undoings, is because I've tried to be a little too intellectual, if that makes sense. Thinking a little too much, thinking a little bit too hard, but that's who I am. I can't be anybody else. The music I make is for the thinkers. The masses, they don't want to think. They just want to dance, get drunk, get high, have a good time, and party. And my music didn't speak to the masses like that.
See, that's interesting, because then when you say that, and I completely get it. I completely understand. Yeah, that's everything is very cerebral, and there's a kind of elevated status to a lot of the raps. But yeah, at the same time, you've influenced a massive selling artist like Eminem, and you've also worked with a massive selling artist like Will Smith.
The reason it resonated with M is because at the time he was trying to get in the game, so he was looking for music that was different than what was out there. He was looking for stuff that moved him in a certain way. He was part of that audience, the audience that got it. He was one of those guys. He was part of that audience. Like I said, it's a niche album, and there's people that will tell you they've never even heard SlaughtaHouse before. They know about it, but they've never even heard a song off of it. And then there's people that tell you that that's their favorite album of mine.
That's mad, right?
Yeah.
That's mad. Has Em ever talked to you, reached out to you, or even like maybe like collabs or anything like that?
Oh, I've met him. I've met him a couple of times, and we've had a conversation. The first time I met him, he told me that SlaughtaHouse was one of the albums in '93 that he and his D12 guys drove around Detroit in a beat up car, and they played it all summer.
Oh, damn.
So he was like, that was our album. Like he said, it popped, we would get another one. He's like, he said I must have had that album like 2 or 3 times. That's just, it's the age you are too. He was probably like in high school. When you're that age, like that's where like really where a lot of times that's where the impact happens for you. Like you're 16, 15, 16, some record comes out that's way different than all that stuff on the radio. And you're like, oh, this is different. I like this. I want to be different. And then that becomes kind of like your anthem for that age, for that time. So every time he thinks about those times and his age, that's one of the albums he immediately thinks of.
So when we talk about Will Smith then, did you ever find yourself having to not necessarily dumb it down, but just put a different hat on when it came to working with Will Smith and writing for Will Smith?
Not at all. I when I was in the studio with Touch of Jazz, Jazzy Jeff and his producers, I wrote stuff that I thought was dope, not knowing if he would think it was dope or not. And the perfect example, I wrote. I don't know if you're familiar with my Long Hot Summer album. I have a song on there. I have a song on there called Soda and Soap
with Jean Grey.
With Jean Grey, right? So the original version of that song was written for Will Smith specifically.
Ah, right. Okay.
He chose not to use it. I think maybe it was too formulaic for him, and I think he thought, because I never found out. Okay, why didn't he want to use the song? You don't ask those questions. You just write, and then you hope somebody uses it.
For sure. Yeah.
But I think he thought people would hear this and say immediately, Will didn't write this. So I think maybe that was part of it, or maybe he just didn't. It was a completely different beat, but the beat was dope. I loved it. I fell in love with the song. I was like, if he don't use this, I'm using this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, so he didn't use it, and I was like, okay, no problem. And I put it on Long Hot Summer a couple years later.
Yeah, that album, man. I do need to talk about that album with you, because possibly my favorite album you've ever done is Long Hot Summer, just because personal reasons.
Yo, what up, y'all? This is DJ Premier, and you're checking out the Crates 808 podcast. I put an S on it because there's more than one record in the crate, you know what I'm saying? So that's how we dig, that's how we play, and that's what real DJs do. You heard? That's why it goes down. We out here.
When we look at when you moved on from SlaughtaHouse, then you moved on to Sittin on Chrome.
Yeah.
Are there like any lessons you've learned from making those 2 albums before you made Disposable Arts, which was a bit of a gap in between? Is there any lessons that from the albums that you still hold to dear today, like you came away with?
The big lessons came from the Sittin on Chrome album, and those lessons were to not listen to record label people and make songs for record label people. That was the lesson for myself. I said, after this album, I'm doing what I want to do, period. Like, I'm going in the studio and whatever I make, it's going to be exactly what I want to make. I don't want to hear anybody in my ear telling me to make this kind of song or that kind of song, or make a song that appeals to this group or that audience. I always call Sittin on Chrome my compromise album. That's what I refer to it as, because I love the album. I think it's a good album. Is it the album I would have made if Delicious Vinyl wasn't pushing and prodding and poking and suggesting and influencing? No, the album would have sounded completely different. It probably wouldn't even been called Sittin on Chrome.
Yeah.
I mean, the singles wouldn't have been those singles. Most of those songs, the singles especially, would never have been made. But I understood what the label was trying to do. We stumbled upon some success with a remix of a song called Born to Roll. And Born to Roll winds up blowing up on the radio and on the video shows. It becomes this huge, unexpected, success. And all of a sudden, they're seeing radio spins and numbers that they haven't seen with anything that they've released on me up to that point. So they're like, man, I think we got something here. This is kind of reminding us of when, Tone Loc and Young MC was starting to buzz.
Yeah.
Let's pursue this. And so they were the ones who were like, on this next album, man, you've made a real impact with the car culture audience, with the Mexican audience in LA. You need to make a record that speaks to that audience. And so I went in the studio and I created this compromise album, the Sittin on Chrome, which was me giving them what they were asking for, but still trying to stay true to who I was. And it became kind of a mixture of the two worlds. And a lot of my core fans weren't happy with that. I know he didn't come right out and say it, but I know he didn't really like the change from SlaughtaHouse to Sittin on Chrome. He didn't care for it. I dumbed down the lyrics a lot, but that was because of the Chronic. Again, like, I'm listening to the Chronic. They're saying these really simple rhymes and everybody knows all the words to it and sings along to every single song. So maybe I need to make my songs a little bit more formulaic and have, just really simple, easy to follow rhymes the bigger audience can grasp. And those are all, calculated decisions, but again, based on the influences I'm getting from the label. So the lesson I learned was do what you want to do, so that if it doesn't work out and it doesn't, succeed, you can say, okay, that's on me. I put this record together. Nobody liked it. That's on me. There's nobody else to blame.
Yeah, that shows a lot of maturity and growth as well, to say that, because a lot of people could be bitter and twisted and stuff like that, and you hear a lot of these stories of the industry. I've never been in it, but you just talking to people who've been in it, it's a machine, man. It's a machine, and it can really eat you up.
Yeah.
You then go on, and it's like a 6-year hiatus till you go to Disposable Arts. How hard is that to kind of, I don't know if reinvigorate's the right word, but like, say, reinvigorate a career, especially one that kind of spans all the 90s, where the rap industry, the music industry is just changed by rap. How hard was that for you to do?
It wasn't hard at all, because I was super motivated. That's the thing. See, when Sittin on Chrome came out, there was a lot of backlash, especially in New York, my hometown, Brooklyn. People felt like the word on the street was that I had sold out to the West Coast. That's what I was told. That's what was said about me. I heard it in whispers and, behind my back, but I knew what was being said. And in a way it was true, because I was, like I said, trying to follow what the label wanted, to try to give them this record that could possibly be this huge record in LA. And so it didn't work out. And you're right, I took that long hiatus because I was really disenchanted with the industry at that point. I had signed a deal right after Delicious Vinyl, after Sittin on Chrome. I signed a deal with Big Beat Records, and I was in the studio 96, 97, part of 98, really 97, 98. I was in the studio working on this album for Big Beat, and the same stuff was happening. They were trying to influence my music. They were trying to tell me, at this point now, the Bad Boy era has started, and Bad Boy is taking all these, old soul records and flipping them and making songs out of them, making music out of them. And they're like, Bad Boy's killing it on the radio. You need to try to, be on that vibe. And I was like, I don't really want to do that though. Like, I caved in again. I did make some songs, with the shakers, with the little jiggy shakers and all that stuff. I did some of that stuff, but it wasn't who I wanted to be. And I was like, I don't like this. I mean, it's cool. The rhymes are cool. The beats are okay, but like the message is not what I really want to be doing. Ultimately, I didn't go far enough for them. Like they wanted me to get like Carl Thomas or Brian McKnight or Changing Faces to sing a hook
Yeah,
for the single, and I didn't want to do it. So they dropped me, and when they dropped me, that was when really the hiatus started. They dropped me in like 98, I think, and that was really when the hiatus started. It was 98, 99, 2000. I was like, I'm chilling. What I decided to do, I said, I'm gonna go behind the scenes. I'm gonna start producing for other people and just be a producer. Just be a producer. Maybe get a job at a label. I actually shot a few resumes out there to try to get jobs at labels.
Damn. Okay.
Nobody bit. And then I was working on a couple of artists that I was producing, and a couple of albums came out. But it was just a quiet time, and it was me just saying, I'm gonna just try to change this game from the inside. Forget about being in front of the mic. I'm just gonna try to change it from behind the scenes. And in 2000, I went to Jazzy Jeff's studio, Touch of Jazz, again, working with Will Smith a little bit, but I was actually working in there with a lot of his producers. And there was just creative energy that was just incredible. And I would go into a room and there'd be dudes in there just making beats, and it was like, this is dope. Like, it was just like a crazy creative atmosphere that got me excited again.
That's sick.
So I did a few records, like one-offs. I did a record with J Love, joint called NY Confidential, and others. I think I did another joint called Splash. And I was just like, that was just me just kind of sticking my toe in the water to see if I still had the chops to even do it. And we threw a few singles out, and then I did a joint for Duck Down with me and Buckshot did a song called Brooklyn Blocks. And those were testing ground to see if I really wanted to do it. And then towards the end of 2000, I went to Europe for a 13-city tour, of which I want to say 8 or 9 of those shows were in the UK.
Wicked. Wow. Okay.
And that was my first time doing like a real tour of any real length overseas. I went out there kind of like not knowing what to expect. It just blew my mind that all these UK shows were packed with fans that knew my music, that knew the words to songs, and were just super enthusiastic and energetic about me performing. And when I came back from that tour in 2000, I was determined to do another album. And I went in the studio immediately and started working on Disposable Arts.
Damn. That like lit a fire under you. I love that.
Yeah, it did.
Because when we look at that album, wow, man, your lyrical game is tight as ever been. And were you constantly honing that craft whilst you were off, or did you kind of leave the writing for a while?
I left it for a while. I mean, I'm a writer at heart, so whether I'm writing or not writing, I'm always writing. So I'm hearing other songs, other rappers saying stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of dope. And but I didn't have beats to write to, so I wasn't like writing songs. But the brain is always working. And once I decided to go forward and do this album, as the beats came in, the songs got written, and I joined the gym at that time. So I joined the gym. The beats started coming in. And I was focusing on certain beats that I loved. I would go to the gym, work out, and just listen to the beat. And I had a little pen and paper on the side that I would like jot words down and then do a set of bench and jot some words down, do a set of shoulders. And that's how the album was made.
That's sick, man. Because there's a lot of stuff in that album. There's a vast spectrum of different things you do. Again, talk about like the storytelling and concept stuff and the theme stuff, from Alphabet Soup to Unfriendly Game and the stuff like that. What is it that you enjoy doing the most? Because you do a lot of different things. What's the thing you find the most enjoyable?
Performing, being on stage in front of a live audience, and taking them on a 1 hour plus, journey through my career, through my albums, and hopefully having them leave the show at the end of the night saying like, I had a great time. I saw stuff that I never saw before happening on stage at a hip hop show, and that I gave a crazy amount of energy for the whole entire night. I use my shows as like a cardio workout. I try to, and typically that's what it is. Every night I come back to the hotel room and I got to hang all my shirts and shorts and drawers. I got to hang everything up to dry because it's soaking wet in sweat. And that's when I know that I gave it 100%.
Damn. Okay. When I see an artist who does that, damn. I think the last time I saw anyone before lockdown was Pharoah Monch in London.
Yep.
Damn. He's still got that kind of what you just said there, the energy. And yeah, man, love that.
Yes, you are rocking with the best. This is the one and only Just Blaze. Right now, you're checking out the Crate 808 podcast. Remember to hit up crate808.com, like, comment, subscribe, and all of that. Peace.
When we're looking at Disposable Arts now, because for me, it's the album that I really learnt about you in that. Is that the album everyone wants to talk to you about? Like, is there an album or a track that people kind of just want to talk to you about more than anything?
That album, definitely. For me, that's my favorite album of mine.
Oh, okay.
It's the most important album in my career, and the reason I say that is because without Disposable Arts, I don't end up with this. What turned out to be, if you look at it, that came out in 2001. We're in 2020. That album was the bridge to a 19-year extension of a career that just doesn't happen typically in hip hop.
Yeah,
it just doesn't happen. Like, you don't drop an album and it's your fourth album, and then that album winds up being the album that extends your career. Usually it's the early work, the first couple of albums that people know, and they focus on those early days. You know, you still perform, but it's people just want to hear those hits that you did early in your career. But for me, it became, you know, sort of the launch point for a completely new career. 19 years of an extension of a career, and I owe it all to that one album.
Damn. Yeah, and I can see that, because then you have that kind of run. You have a run from there where, I mean, Long Hot Summer is what, about 3 years later or something? And
yep.
Damn, that album, man. Like, Disposable Arts was the album that was kind of like over here, reviewed very highly, critical acclaim. And plus, it wasn't just that, it was word of mouth. It was people like, you've got to hear this album. When A Long Hot Summer came out, I remember copying that just as I had moved house. And goddamn, man, that soundtracked like quite a few of the first years that I lived there. And I just want to say thank you for that album, man. Like, it gave me, you have a lot of tough times in your life and stuff like that. That soundtracked some, not just my tough times, but my favorite moments of my life. And I just wanted to ask you generally what your thoughts were on that album now. When you look back at A Long Hot Summer, how do you feel about that album when you listen to it now?
I still have a very strong connection to A Long Hot Summer because of Disposable Arts. See, Long Hot Summer would have never been made if not for the fact that the same month that I dropped Disposable Arts, we lost our distribution.
Oh.
Because in my mind, Disposable was going to be my last album. So we lost our distribution for Disposable, and I was like, "Oh, that's whack! Like, this is like my life's work, and most people aren't going to even know about this album or get this album because they're not going to be able to find it because there's no distribution." So my partner Rich was like, "Well, you may have to just do one more." And I was like, if I do one more, it's going to have to be connected to Disposable Arts. I'm going to do another album that tells the story before Disposable Arts, the prequel. And that's what Long Hot Summer is. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah, I've read that.
So the whole thinking with that album was people are going to hear Long Hot Summer, and they're going to hear my character at the end end up in jail. And then they're going to find out through my interviews that, oh, there's another album that came out a few years before that tells the rest of the story. And so I have, Long Hot Summer definitely, to me, those albums are kind of like interconnected. They're 1 and 1A for me.
Yeah. When you do look at that whole idea of telling a story and a narrative that goes on and you splinter that narrative and stuff like that, it makes me think you must read a lot.
I wish I should read. I love to read, but I don't read nearly as much as I should.
Really? Because that's amazing. Because it feels like a bit of a book, like a novel. It feels like a story you can keep going back to.
I'm a writer at heart, and that's what I always try to remind people. I'm not, rapping is just one aspect of my writing, but I'm a writer at heart. So writing those skits and those storylines, that's ingrained in me. That's something that I should always do. That's what I will always do.
That's good to hear, man. Just makes me think about touching on the work you did with Will Smith and stuff like that. When we talk about writing and ghostwriting in particular, what's your views on like, first of all, the way that whole skill set and industry has changed since the 90s to now? It's kind of really quite maligned now in the culture. Where do you stand on it?
It all depends on what type of accolades you're looking for. If you just want to be a radio rapper who has hits on the radio, and you're not out there talking about being the best or being the king of something or being, number one and that kind of stuff. it doesn't bother me because I know that in every other genre of music, there's songwriters, there are people that write songs for Britney Spears and Janet Jackson and that kind of thing. So
Absolutely.
as long as you're not, talking about being the best rapper or being the best MC or being the best lyricist, and you're just making songs for the radio, that's to me, that's a separate world. That's a separate world. So I don't judge that world the same way I judge the hip hop world.
Right. I see. Because it does, you're right. A lot of all the other industries does have this whole like facet to it. And for some reason in ours, I mean, I know lyricism is so huge and it is huge, but I suppose you're right. It's like, are you doing it to sell records or are you doing it to make like you talked about the Chronic, Dre didn't write everything. He didn't even make all the beats, but he put it together.
Yeah, he didn't write his rhymes, and that's well documented. There's a lot of people that didn't write their rhymes. Some of our, without saying any names, some of the, I would say, legend female MCs didn't write all their rhymes, and so, but they're still considered legends, as they should be. But at the same time, I'm working from a different world. I'm in this world where we're talking about lyricism. We're talking about what you put together, the words you put together, and how dope they are, and how technical they are. And those radio artists can't exist in that world. They shouldn't even try to have a conversation in our world because they don't belong there. And I don't know if you were eventually going to bring up Drake's name or not, but I have a really strong feeling about Drake that I don't. People have tried to put him in that category, and to me, he's not in that category.
In what sense?
Because before Drake ever had a radio hit, he was dropping mixtapes that he wrote, and the rhymes on those mixtapes were incredible. So I don't discount the fact that when he got to this radio world, that he started, getting help to. If you look at the amount of output of hits that he's been cranking out for the last 10 years, it's a lot of hits.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not talking about necessarily rhymes. We're talking about hit records that are being played on the radio. To have that kind of output consistently like that, you're gonna need help. That's the reason why people look at Jay-Z, for example. I know Jay-Z wrote all his rhymes. Jay-Z has tons of hits, but he didn't have anywhere near the volume of hits that Drake had put out because he was writing it all. And so I think Drake got help on like some choruses, some little ditty bops and stuff like that. It doesn't take anything away from his ability for me. Everybody don't feel the same way. It doesn't take anything away from his ability for me because he's just trying to make records that can stay on the radio. He's bringing different people in, they're collaborating to put these songs together. But at the end of the day, I know that if you put Drake in a room with an ill beat, he gonna write some crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing about Drake, and to be fair, I like Drake, as in like, but I like almost every facet of this culture. Generally, there aren't many people I hate or dislike. I just find that if you don't like it, you have so many other artists you can check out anyway.
Right.
What I think with that is, if you look at any other genre, I like listening to my Led Zeppelin and your Pink Floyd, but that doesn't mean I don't like listening to my 80s synth pop as well. There's a spectrum and a time and place for certain things. My little lad loves Drake songs. So it's like, I'm not going to deny him that enjoyment because in 10 years' time, he might write something that's killer. And I might be like, wow, that's, you never know. And I think to deny other people enjoyment from art is interesting, unless it's very, very cynical. And sometimes Drake can be quite cynical, I think, with the stuff he's doing in his moves. But also, as you said, he's put a lot of work in before that. So, yeah, it's a conversation that it can get quite muddy, I think.
Yeah.
Yo, this is Rodney P, the Rhythm Killer, big blood clot things we're in. You heard me? Yeah. And we're here listening to the Crate 808 podcast. Big things is going on right back to the early morning. If you don't know, get the blood clot. No, you feel me? Yeah, big old man Cam every time. People. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And remember, subscribe it, rate it, review it, and go on and tell your blood clot friends. For real.
When we're looking at this time in your life, which was a long hot summer, Disposable Arts, I know just before those you had found out that you had MS, or at least we'd found out about that. How did that affect your craft, affect your life, affect like just the way your outlook?
Well, that getting that diagnosis at the time in 2000
Mm.
That was part of the motivation. Like when you asked me, you know, what was going on, what made me, I guess, go so hard. That was part of it. Getting that diagnosis sort of made me feel like if this is going to be my, I didn't want to go out the way I was going to go out, which was the backlash from sitting on Chrome. I wanted to go out on my own terms.
Mm.
So I didn't know what the future held for me in terms of, you know, physically or whatever. I was like, so if this means that I'm not going to be able to really run around on stages for very long, let me go out. Let me put together a record that's exactly what I wanted to say. It motivated me in a lot of different ways, and it definitely helped me creatively to just really just go in and make it as good as I could make it. That's what the diagnosis did for me. It helped me to sort of rededicate myself to the craft.
Mm. And how are you feeling now? Are you dealing with it on a day-to-day basis? Are you good?
I'm good, man. I'm blessed that I'm able to function. I'm not in any way limited. I changed my diet. I've made a bunch of changes over the course of those years that got me to this point where I'm able to, you know, just really just function normally. There's a lot of people that cannot function normally because of this disease. So I feel very fortunate and very blessed that I'm one of the people that can actually walk and my vision is good, and I don't have the same amount of challenges that some people have with this disease right now.
Oh, it's good to hear, man. It's good to hear that you're cracking on with it. Because again, love to see you over here live at some point when this lockdown's gone, and if you come over again, man, that'd be amazing. So when we look at Son of Yvonne, wow, that album again is another one. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I noticed a lot of people who didn't really talk about you in their kind of conversations a lot. When Son of Yvonne came out, you were right back in that conversation. And that album, man, again, another one. This is a great run you've been on. I know there's a lot of time between this and A Long Hot Summer and stuff like that. But how did this collab with MF Doom start?
It started with a friend of mine who was just driving around with the MF Doom instrumentals. He had the Special Herbs albums, and he was just driving around with them. And I was with him one day, and I was like, "What's this?" And he was like, "Oh, this is the MF Doom instrumentals." I was like, "Oh, shoot!" I said, "There's some ill beats on here." And he's like, "You want me to make you a copy?" I was like, "Sure." He burned me a copy, and I started driving around listening to the instrumentals for a few months. And as I was driving with those instrumentals, really just as cruising music, I started getting some ideas for songs and for rhymes. And I was like, "Ooh, I would rhyme like this over this beat if I had this beat." And suddenly I said, "You know what? I was kind of in between projects. I was like, I think I'm gonna do a mixtape, a free mixtape, and just throw it out there, just to, you know, kind of like fill the gap between projects. Because I think the most recent project that I had put out was the album with Edo G, the A&E album. So I was in between projects, and I was like, you know, let me throw this out there, this mixtape out there. So that was the plan. We wound up having a meeting with Fat Beach Records to talk about other topics. And my partner, Rich, mentions, yeah, Ace is working on this mixtape, and he's going to be rhyming over some MF Doom beats. And immediately they were like, "What? What do you mean a free mixtape? No, that needs to be for sale. We would love to distribute that."
Mm.
And the next thing you know, what started off as just a mixtape idea was going to be just some loose rhymes, fun rhymes, turns into, well, if they're going to put money behind it, I need to give them a proper project.
Yeah.
So then I rethought everything, and I said, well, I need to figure out what this album is going to be about. At the time, I was still, you know, dealing with the loss of my mom's, and I thought that this would be a good way to kind of honor her, make the album about my years growing up with her as my mother. And so that's what I did. I went in the studio and I started writing the album and making it about her. I made it, and it was kind of in a lot of ways, it was like therapy for me. You know, I got a chance to say certain things on that album to my mother that I didn't get to say while she was here.
It comes across, man. There's so much heart in that. I remember listening to that thinking, damn, I really need to call my mum. Like, I just need to call my mum. And I felt like there's not often many times an album can do that. And listening back to it now, and damn, did you talk to Doom then about those beats at all? Or did you kind of just buy them, or like kind of give them a cut, or what was the case with that?
So when I first got the idea to do this mixtape, I put it on social media. I guess Twitter at the time. Instagram didn't exist yet, so it had to be Twitter and maybe Facebook. I just put it out there. It's like I'm going to do this project over MF Doom beats, and it started a little buzz, like Doom fans started popping up. It just started floating around. This concept that I was going to do this, and people were excited to hear what I was going to do. Later that year, I wound up having a show with Doom at the Montreux Jazz Festival in Switzerland. I think it's in Switzerland or France. It's right near the border. I think it's Switzerland. I wound up having a show with Doom. I already started recording the album, and when I saw him backstage or sound check, he already knew about the project.
Oh,
because the buzz had started. I started talking about it, and it just floated everywhere. So he knew about it, and I was like, "Yo, after the show, I want to play you, the songs." I didn't have mix. I just had roughs, and he was like, "Cool." So after the show, went back to his hotel room. I played him the whole album, and he was like, "Yo, this is so dope. This is so dope." And I was like, it'd be really dope if you could just spit on one of the songs. And he was like, "I'm down. I'll do it." And the rest is history.
Damn. I mean, just another genius. And another, again, just look at the people that we've mentioned throughout this chat that we're having. Man, you got to be pretty happy with this career that you've kind of made. Has there been any specific highlights for yourself looking back?
There's been a few. One of my earliest highlights was in, I believe it was 91. My first time coming to the UK.
Okay.
And I got to perform at London Arena, opening up for Public Enemy and EPMD.
Damn. And that was what year? That was early 90s.
I want to say 91. I guess it was 15,000 people there, something like that. And because PE was enormous at that time.
Mm-mm.
And so I didn't know. So this is the thing. I didn't know that my music had really. I heard, but I didn't know that my songs had really made it over to the UK in the way that they did until that night. And I jump on stage and I start performing Let It to the Better, and people went crazy. It was the first time in my career, really, that I saw that kind of reaction to my music, to music that I had made. So all the shows I had did in the US up to that point, they were cool, but it wasn't that type of energy. And I just fell in love with the UK from that moment. I was like, yo, man, I'll come back here anytime to rock, because they really like my stuff. It ain't just it's cool,
Yeah.
So that's one of my big highlights of my career.
That's nice, man. What do you think to the UK then, the UK scene, and do you get to listen to much music there, much of the rap or hip hop or any music that comes out from here?
I don't get to hear a lot of it, but when stuff comes out, there's a group, I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, from the UK, called HawkHouse.
HawkHouse? No,
Yeah.
I don't know them.
No. Wow.
Again, there's so many acts now that.
No, I know. They've been out a while though.
Okay, all right.
And they it's two guys and a girl, and they're super dope. I discovered them. I don't even know how. I think my cousin might have put me on to them or something. But once I heard the stuff, and they just rhyme. They just go in. They got some really cool, interesting videos. Very different.
Okay.
That's probably the most, and they're not even that recent. That's probably 5-6 years since I've been playing them. But they're dope. They got some dope music.
Nice, man. Yeah, I would check that out for sure.
Hey, yo, this your boy Frau March, and right now you are rocking live with the Crate 808 podcast. Enjoy this week's episode, and just remember to subscribe and rate and review. Peace.
What was it like getting because listening again, one of your skills that I think people may not talk about too much, but then maybe it is because I do love SlaughtaHouse and stuff like that. But the production credits, man, that you get, you produce a lot. And what was it like learning from people I've heard you learn from people like Premier and other people like that. Do you remember any of those sessions? Yeah,
well, I learned how to use my equipment from DJ Premier.
Okay.
Because we lived close by each other. We lived in the same kind of complex, but he was on another side. I lived out there first, and then he came to visit me one time. I had like a little barbecue, and he came out to my crib, and he was like, "Yo, I like it out here. Do they still have, vacancies?" And I was like, "Yo, I'll just give you my landlord's number and hit her up." And within a couple of months, he was renting from the same landlord that I was renting from.
That's crazy.
And so when it came time, this was like, I started producing, like really producing, right before SlaughtaHouse came out. That's when I started learning how to, really after SlaughtaHouse came out, I started learning how to work the equipment. So I said, tell me what you have. Cause I knew I had to I knew I had to get like hands-on lessons on how to work the stuff. And it had to be somebody who lived close to where I lived, and Premier lived close.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, tell me what you own, and that's what I'm gonna buy. And then I'm gonna come to your house, and you're gonna show me how you do your stuff. And so I bought the same equipment he had, the MPC 60 Mark II and the Kai S950. I bought the same two pieces of equipment, and I went to Premier's house after it came. I came with a notebook and a pen, and I said, go. And he told me every step of the way, how to sample, how to get the sound into the machine, how to edit the sample. The only thing he didn't tell me was how to make a beat. He's like, now you know how to put everything up. Now it's up to you I'm not going to, make a beat for you. You got to make your own beats. And I was like, that's fine. And I took those notes back to my house and started making beats immediately.
Is there a session in the 90s you wish you could have been a fly on the wall? Like, is there a studio session or a beat session?
Any Dr. Dre session.
Yeah.
Any because I still to this day don't know how he gets his music to sound so loud without distortion and so clear. And I know there's tricks that are being done. I know there's tricks. I've heard, different people saying he'll have his snare on 4 tracks or 5 tracks, and like I've tried that stuff, and it still doesn't deliver the volume. There's more to it that I don't know, that I need to know.
Yeah. What an answer. That's exactly it. We talk about Dre's albums on the pod quite a bit, and there's just something about it. How have you mixed this? Like, what is this? So as we usually ask every guest who does come on, and a lot of people do run away from this question, so don't feel bad if you don't want to answer it. But could you name me your top 5 MCs?
Yeah. Why wouldn't people want to do that?
Some people don't like lists. Some people don't like to. I understand it because there's like 50 different artists that have all changed my life. But just when it comes to favorites, I was wondering if you had a 5.
Yeah, favorites. And this is not necessarily guys that influenced me or that I think are the best. It's just cats that I thought were like that. I want to listen to them rhyme all the time.
Yeah,
right?
man. Yeah.
I'm gonna say Elzhi.
Oh, nice.
Elzhi. I'm gonna say Fonte.
Yeah, man, here for all these. Yes.
Yep. I'm gonna go all the way back, and I'm gonna say Chill Rob G.
Chill Rob G. What a shout!
He was down in the Flavor Unit. These are like favorites. Like like I said, we ain't talking about best MC ever and all that. We're just talking about favorites, guys that I will listen to any time of the day. So that's 3.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta look at my iPod now.
Yeah, man, take your time for sure.
In my iTunes, but those 3 are solid favorites.
Great shouts, man. Elzhi doesn't get enough love, I don't think. He's consistent.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like the lyric game with him he's one of the guys that I'm like, well, I can't do that. What he's doing, I can't do.
Wow.
And I don't mind saying it. Like, it's like, yo, that stuff he's doing, I don't think I can do that. I can't pull that off. That's too good.
That's amazing. That's amazing praise, man. Yeah, he's dope. Fonte as well. That last Little Brother album is sick.
Yep, definitely. So we're still talking favorites, and I'm just scrolling through and looking at. Oh, Busta Rhymes. I'm throwing Busta in there.
Okay.
Busta don't get enough love either.
Yeah, I think he gets love for he's good at hits, he's got charisma, his live shows are good. All that, yeah, but his skills, man. Can we talk about the skills for a second?
People overlook the skills because he has like records on the radio and club bangers, and people say, well, yeah, that's what he's known for, but they really missing the boat on him because he's very, very ill with the rhymes, just straight rhymes.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah.
So I just got one more, right? One more favorite to give you.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna say Slick Rick, man.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that as well. And that there's a correlation between a lot of these, and I feel like top fives always show me a little bit of that person that's saying them. So yeah, all those elite lyricists, man. Fair play. I like that 5. It's a strong 5. So before we leave you, then, man, 2 questions I had. One, I have a little 2-year-old boy, 3-year-old boy now, actually, 3-year-old boy. If you were to tell me I could play him one like Masta Ace song or record, if you could recommend one I should play him when he's of age to, properly take it in, which track or record would you go for?
I would probably say Young Black Intelligent off the Fallen Season album.
The Fallen Season album, yeah. That's a sick album, by the way. There's a lot of good collabs on there. Yeah, man, that is a really interesting shout. I was thinking you're going to go back quite far, but yeah, I like that shout, man. Because your old Droog's on there, right? And people like that. Like,
he's on that album, yeah.
Are you doing like any new music with any of the newer artists that are coming out, or because I heard Rhapsody the other day and I was thinking, God, man, Masta Ace would sound really good with Rhapsody. I don't know why that popped in my head, but yeah.
I agree with that. No, I mean, the new project, we don't have anybody earmarked to be on the album yet. I don't like predicting collabs before I have a song. Like some people just say, yo, man, we should do a song together. And then they just try to create a song. And to me, those aren't the best songs. The best songs are hearing the beat, coming up with the concept for the song, and then deciding who would fit this song and concept the best.
Yeah.
That's how I've always done my collaborations. I've never predetermined a collaboration just based on we should do a song together. I just don't think that's not organic to me.
Yeah, no, I feel it, man. I love that. That's great. Good to know there's some reasoning and thought and like foresight into something like that. That's wicked, man. And as we have been talking about the 90s and that era that you kind of made an imprint, what lessons do you think, or are there even any lessons that we can look at as a culture, as a music, as fans from the 90s? Is there anything we could learn?
Yes, definitely. We should learn that New York, as the birthplace of hip hop, New York needs to have their own sound and stick to their own sound. I think a lot of the problems that are existing right now in hip hop, in terms of the way the music is all kind of sounding the same, is because New York, which was the leader of this thing, decided to become followers, and we started to cater to other sounds instead of catering to the sound that's true to what New York is. Like, I listen to New York artists now, young artists. I don't even know they're from New York just because of the way the music sounds. Like,
yeah.
It's like, why does this sound like this? Like, you're not from Atlanta. You're not from Louisiana. You're not from the South. Like, why are you rapping like this? And why do your beats sound like this? It's because New York radio, in the 2000s, late 2000s, started raising our young people on Southern music and not playing music that is more, rooted in what New York sounds like. The hard drums, there's nothing wrong with trap, and that's, to me, that's an Atlanta sound. Let Atlanta do that. We should be doing what we do, and we're trying to do what they're doing.
It's so odd living in an age where New York doesn't have a sound, because I grew up with that. That's you're right, man. It's pretty mad that there isn't that.
It actually happened to LA too. Like after the G-Funk era kind of faded out, LA kind of got a little lost too. They're at least starting to, with the Kendricks.
Yeah, TDE, yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to find their way back to their own thing. It's not, they don't have it yet, but they're at least trying. New York, we're not even trying. Like, all the New York artists are all trying to do the same thing. They're all trying to sound like that. And it's just disheartening, because it winds up screwing up the variety that's supposed to be on the landscape. There should be Southern music, there should be Midwest sounding stuff, there should be down South stuff, and there should be New York stuff. And we're just like not doing our part, in my opinion.
Man, that sounds very similar to what Just Blaze said to us. He was saying although there is diversity in hip hop, there's a lack of diversity at the top tier. And I think that comes down to the fact that New York hasn't got that sound where, wow, if that had that sound, you'd have that diversity. And like you said, TD's trying to do its thing over there. And yeah, man, good shout. It's good reminders for everyone to listen to. And then one of my final questions. We talk about the Wu a lot on this pod. And obviously they've had just an enormous amount of volume of music that's come out from not just the group, but the solo efforts as well. So we decided to make a playlist, which is the Slept On Wu-Tang Bangers playlist. So tracks that are kind of slept on or just need a bit more love. Are there any that come to mind for you that you think, you know what, that Wu-Tang joint needs a bit more love?
There's a joint that I play all the time from Raekwon and Capadonna. It's called 12. Wait, what is it called? It's called 12 something. Hold on, 12 Bricks.
Oh, what is that on? That's on. Is that on the Purple Tape too? I don't remember now. I think it might be on the.
Yeah, it's on. Yep, it's on the second Purple Tape.
Yeah, that is mate. I'm not even put that on the playlist because I went through my own library. So you're right. Masta Ace killed it. Yes, we need to put that track on that playlist.
That beat is crazy.
Yeah, man. Absolutely sick. And again, another person who's just consistently bringing it is Raekwon, where you're like, you would think at some point, like, you know, you've run out of language. But no, it just keeps going. It's amazing.
Word.
So, man, thank you, Masta Ace, for giving us all this time, just letting us pick your brains for a bit, and just real honor to have you on, man, because one of our favorite artists. So, yeah, man, just good to hear from you.
Absolutely. No problem, man.
Before you go then, man.
It's called 10 Bricks. Sorry, not 12.
Ah, that's what it is. Yes, it is. It's called 10 Bricks. Yes, it is. Yeah, good job.
Featuring Capadonna.
That's it, 10 Bricks. Yeah. So, man, Ace, one last question then. Before you go off and do your thing, what's the last great piece of music you heard? Could be old, could be new, could be anything, just the last great piece you heard.
You mean like last as in most recent, right?
Yes, yeah, the most recent thing.
Oh, man. There's a new kid that my daughter put me on to. I never had heard of him until she brought him to me.
Okay.
She's 15, so it's her generation, and his name is YBN Cordae. Have you ever heard of him?
I do really enjoy YBN Cordae. He's got lyrics, man.
I know that, and I didn't go in when she had me sit down. She wanted me to sit down and be still and listen to the whole album front to back.
Wow.
And I sat there. I thought sure, like 3 songs in, I was gonna be like, listen, this ain't, I gotta go. But I sat there and I listened to the whole album, top to bottom, and I really enjoyed it way more than I expected to. He's really a good MC. The songs are good. He's got good energy. He's positive. He's not just talking about a bunch of BS. And all of those things, made me happy. And I'm happy that my daughter picked something that was good. I was like applauding her for bringing something to me that actually had a little bit of sense to it and a little bit of intelligence to it, and it wasn't just straight, foolery. So I'll credit him with that, man.
Oh man, that's put a big smile on my face. Thinking like, when I get to that time when my kid comes to me and shows me an album, I'm looking forward to that, man. I like hearing new things. Like you've said a few acts today that maybe I'm like, oh wow, I need to go check them out. I love learning, man, and I think learning from your own kids, damn man, can't explain that feeling. It's amazing. Well, Ace, thank you very much, man. You please take care of yourself. We love you out here, man. We love you. And if you ever want to come back on and talk about any new albums or any new projects that are coming on, man, the doors are always open, bro.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on, and I look forward to when it comes out. Send me a link so I can share it.
Sweet, man. Will do. Okay, man. Peace. Take it easy, man.
Peace, brother.
Thank you.
Later.
Hey, yo, what up, y'all? This is Prince Paul, and you're rocking with Crate 808 Podcast. Now, I want you to enjoy this week's episode, and just remember to subscribe and rate and review. All right? Peace.
Well, there you go. Masta Ace sat down, went in. This is a journey we're on right now, people, on this podcast. The fact that we can have someone like him, what I would call a living rap legend, someone that we always talk about, you should give them their flowers, whilst they're here. This is exactly that. This is the kind of guy that we need to go out and just applaud the fact that we have someone like that still around now. And, when I see M doing his tours and wearing a Masta Ace t-shirt, just makes me feel a little bit better. Makes me feel a bit better about life. So yeah, man, I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. That was one of my favourite interviews, sitting down, just chatting to him. And yeah, just what's left for me to say is please go out there and spread the word, man. If you enjoyed this, please tell other people how good it is. If you didn't enjoy it, don't say anything to anyone, please. Yeah, just delete it and leave it. Thank you. And yeah, man, please rate, please review, please subscribe. You can check us out on crate808.com. Check out our Facebook, our Insta, our YouTube, our Twitter. Yes, man, we're kind of everywhere. And yeah, man, we're just on the grind. So all that's left for me to say is thank you for listening. Thank you and big up Grindhouse Music for doing all the music on this pod. Now go out there, stay safe, be clean, and just treat yourself to a bit more Masta Ace in your life. See you later. Boom.